What's up, folks? Mike for CMCC Builds here with another optimization build inspired by Ludic Savant. The Spell Sword build did really well. Thank you to all who watched, outpacing all of my previous build videos, even the Geralt of Rivia Witcher build, which is kind of crazy and amazing. And since these optimization build videos are quite a bit quicker than the fictional character builds, because they don't have the video editing demands of the latter videos, I'm happy to do more of these. Some optimization videos will continue to be inspired by Ludic, others will not, but just know that the fictional character builds will continue to be the basis of this channel. It's why I started the channel, and it's what I enjoy most about content creation here on YouTube. That said, let me know in the comments what you prefer and why. So let's talk about today's build. The Echo Knight is certainly one of the most interesting fighter subclasses out there. A lot of people like to say that playing a fighter is boring, but with subclasses like this one, Battle Master, Psy Warrior, and Rune Knight, that is simply not the case. The flexibility the Echo Knight provides gives the player a ton of options in-game, and not just during combat either. Later features provide some nearly, perhaps arguably broken utility, and the class features improve efficacy on the offensive and defensive side of combat. The build today takes the already awesome Echo and throws it into overdrive by multiclassing with both a thematic and mechanical subclass counterpart, which we'll talk about later. If you like fighting in melee without actually being in melee, then this build is for you. If you like protecting your allies and tanking without having to forego your own defense, then this is the build for you. If you like dishing out massive amounts of burst damage, then this is the build for you. If you like teleportation and moving all over the battlefield, then this is the build for you. If you like battlefield control and locking down enemies, then this is the build for you. I think you get the point. It does a lot. With all that said, let's go ahead and jump into the build. For your race, you need a feat right at level 1. Technically, you don't need that feat until level 3 when you get your fighter subclass, but we want it as soon as possible. Because of that, you'll want to take either Custom Lineage or Variant Human. Custom Lineage only provides a bump in a single stat, which is great for those sad builds, single attribute dependent. As a fighter with a subclass feature that relies on Constitution, you'll definitely want to be strong in both areas. And since we'll multiclass into Barbarian, you're not going to wear or even need heavy armor. So Dex becomes another semi-important stat. That makes this a surprisingly mad build, multi-attribute dependent. Variant Human provides increases to 2 stats, so this is the better pick for the build. Take whichever language works for you in your campaign. For the ability score increases, go ahead and bump Strength and Constitution. For your skill, you gotta go with Perception. It's the most important skill in the game, and there is potential for this build to do some scouting in the mid tiers, so Perception is gonna be an important skill in those cases. With your feat, take Sentinel. Why Sentinel? What does it do for you? For your first 2 levels, it will function the same for you as pretty much any other build. When you hit a creature with an opportunity attack, the creature's speed becomes 0 for the rest of the turn, so when an enemy tries to get away from you, take an opportunity attack and drop them to 0 speed, so they can't move anywhere. Creatures provoke opportunity attacks from you even if they take the disengage action before leaving your reach. This makes sure you'll be able to get an opportunity attack whenever those are normally available to you, which is great when combined with the first clause of this feat. And finally, when a creature within 5 feet of you makes an attack against a target other than you, and that target doesn't have this feat, you can use your reaction to make a melee weapon attack against the attacking creature. So even if the enemy decides to stick around and attack a squishier ally instead of you, you can still get opportunity attacks off. Sentinel is a very strong feat for melee marshals, but each clause in this feat gets supercharged when combined with your Echo. Before we talk about the synergies between your Echo and Sentinel, we should probably discuss the Echo itself. 3rd level, when you take the Echo Knight subclass, you get Manifest Echo and Unleash Incarnation. Manifest Echo allows you to use a bonus action to create your Echo within 15 feet of you in an unoccupied space you can see. There's no limit to this ability, but it does require your bonus action. Because of that amazing feature, we'll want to keep our bonus action free, so feats like Polearm Master or Crossbow Expert or even something like Telekinetic won't be very good on this build. The Echo you create is an object, not a creature, and yes, that matters. Many spells only target creatures and not objects. And even some area of effect spells only damage creatures and not objects. This provides a layer of protection to your already decently tanky Echo, which has an AC of 14 plus your proficiency bonus. It will start with an AC of 16 and scale to an AC of 20 by level 17. So despite having only 1 hit point, it won't necessarily be killed easily between its AC, its not being a creature, and its movement, which is 30 feet in any direction. And that includes the air. The only restriction here is that if your Echo is more than 30 feet away from you at the end of your turn, it is destroyed, but you can always just create another one on your turn, unlimited times. And this restriction on movement only takes place at the end of your turn, so the Echo can be as far away from you as possible until that moment. So if you want to send it 30 feet in one direction while you move and dash 60 feet in the other direction, you can absolutely do that, but the Echo will be destroyed once your turn ends. Okay, so that's creating and moving your echo, but what can you do with the echo once it's created? First, you can teleport as a bonus action and swap places with your echo. This requires you have 15 feet of movement. This is another bonus action ability, further cementing our decision not to take classic martial feats like Polearm Master and Crossbow Expert. When you take the attack action, you can make any attack from the echo's location on your own, and when a creature within 5 feet of the echo moves away from it, you can make an opportunity attack from the echo space. Basically, we're in both spots at the same time. Why is this good with Sentinel? First, since you can make your opportunity attacks from the echo's location, you don't need to be in melee to get opportunity attacks. This means that you can be in 2 spots at once, doubling the squares you can cover to actually get those opportunity attacks. This also means you double the positioning options, so you can get reaction attacks when your allies are attacked within 5 feet of you. You can choose to sit safely behind your echo, ensuring you take no damage, and if the enemy wants to move away from you or your echo, that opportunity attack will prevent them from doing so. You've effectively doubled the lockdown opportunities. The purpose of the movement restrictions is to force enemies to attack you, but the echo creates a loophole. Really an amazing synergy. You get all the benefits of locking down enemies without the negative of actually being attacked. It's so good that we're taking it at level 1 to make sure we don't lose out on this feat for level 3, and to be fair, it's also quite good for levels 1 and 2. For your ability scores, go with 15 in strength, 14 dexterity, 15 constitution, 8 intelligence, 10 wisdom, and 8 charisma, with a +1 in strength and constitution, bringing both of those to 16s. You'll eventually want to wear half plate, but for tier 1 play, go ahead and wear chainmail or the best armor you can find. Your weapon of choice should be a heavy 2-handed weapon like a greatsword or maul. I'll suggest you take the maul because it's slightly more damage due to less resistances to its damage type, and it also gives us access to the crusher feat, which I like a bit better than the slasher feat if we decide to go in that direction. For your starting class, of course, go with fighter. This gives us heavy armor, shield, and martial weapon proficiencies. At this point, the character has no restrictions on heavy armor usage, so that chainmail is fine to wear. For your skill proficiencies, choose whichever work for you in your campaign. Athletics and insight are 2 picks I like. For your fighting style, you can take defense, but you will be so protected by your echo that I don't think it's necessary. Blind fighting and superior technique are solid choices depending on your party and playstyle, but the generally mediocre great weapon fighting is my recommendation here. The fighting style doesn't add a ton of damage to your attacks. The great sword and maul add about 1.33 damage per hit, which is the most of any weapon actually. Again, it's not a ton, worse than the dueling fighting style, but the more attacks you make, the better this becomes. And the plan is to have burst or nova rounds where you can dish out up to 6 attacks on a turn, and even more if you score a critical hit, which this build will also do quite well. That can be more than 9 points of additional damage for that turn. And in the higher tier plays, you can get even more attacks than that. You also get Second Wind and Action Surge at level 2 for a bonus action heal, and your extra action once per short rest. At level 3, you get your subclass, and we will take the Purple Dragon, just kidding, Echo Knight of course. Manifest Echo gets you all the goodies we talked about earlier. In addition to this, you also get Unleash Incarnation, which allows you to make 1 additional melee attack from your Echo's position whenever you take the attack action, Constitution mod times per long rest. Right now, that means we can take an extra attack for our attack action, Action Surge, and take another attack with our second action, and still have 1 use of this ability left over. Level 4, you get an ASI or feat. Here, take the Great Weapon Master feat. This allows you to make a bonus action attack when you score a critical hit with a melee weapon, or reduce a creature to 0 hit points. This works nicely with Unleash Incarnation, because the more attacks you make, the more likely you are to 1. Score a critical, and 2. Kill the enemy you're attacking. Either of those will get you the extra attack. In the second clause of this feat, you can take a -5 to your attack roll with a heavy weapon to add +10 to your damage. Without something like the archery fighting style or the bless spell to boost your attack rolls, this -5 actually hurts quite a bit. You don't deal any damage if you don't hit with your attacks, so it's incredibly important to land those attacks. Fortunately for you, this build will have a steady source of advantage to help mitigate that -5 penalty. At level 5, we're actually going to stick with fighter and get extra attack on time. Again, it happened. Amazing. Here is where most people like to jump out of fighter, but I'm suggesting taking 1 more level to get that ASI feat that's sitting right there at level 6. With that ASI, go ahead and bump your strength to an 18. This gives a bonus to attack and damage rolls, and with a higher attack bonus, you can keep your Great Weapon Master -5 +10 turned on at higher ACs, which is nice, and when it's turned off, you can hit a bit more often and harder. At level 7, you're going to multi-class out of Fighter and into Barbarian for 2 levels. At Barbarian 1, you're going to get Unarmored Defense, which you'll basically never use, but you will want to strip your heavy armor off and get the half plate you've been eyeing in the store window for all these levels. You're downgrading to medium armor because at this level you also get Rage. You gain several benefits while raging, as long as you're not in that heavy armor. Advantage on strength checks and saving throws is nice if you want to grapple or break things. You get a damage bonus to strength-based melee weapon attacks, and you have resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. This is less important to this build than most because, again, your Echo is locking down most attacking enemies and wading into battle in your place. And the downside of raging, you can't cast spells or concentrate on them while raging. You're not a spellcaster, so this will have no effect on you. At level 8, Barbarian 2, you get Danger Sense, which gives you advantage on dex saving throws against effects that you can see. And you get Reckless Attack, which allows you to make all of your attacks with advantage for the turn, but it provides enemies with advantage on attacks against you until your next turn. Except you won't be near the enemies you're attacking. Your Echo is, and your Echo is not you. Even if you attack through your Echo, you're still in the other location. Those enemy attacks are not made with advantage on your Echo, because again, your Echo is not you. Oh, the enemy wants to get past the Echo to attack you with advantage? Yeah, no. Opportunity attack with Sentinel, locked down. Not going anywhere. So unless you have ranged attacks, which the vast majority of creatures in D&D surprisingly do not, they have no choice but to attack your Echo instead. Single tier, tiny violin. At this point, you can stick with Barbarian to really double down on this lockdown tanking effect, but I'm recommending you go back into Fighter for levels 9 and 10, which gives you the level 7 EK feature, Echo Avatar. This allows you to see and hear through your Echo, which can be up to 1,000 feet away from you. While you're in this state, you are deafened and blinded and can remain in your Echo for up to 10 minutes. This ability is broken. And not simply because it's extremely powerful, which it is, but the designer simply forgot to add the additional negative clause that you cannot teleport with your Echo while in this state. So because that wasn't written into the feature, you have an unlimited use, at will, 1,000-foot teleport. Dimension Door is a 4th level spell that allows a 500-foot teleport. Jeremy Crawford has confirmed that this is not rules as intended, and the rule that you can't interact with your Echo in any way, for example switching places with the Echo, was mistakenly left out of the book. One of the odder Sage Advice Crawford tweets I've seen, but that's the tweet. Besides this broken application, you also have a crazy good scouting option with this feature, which functions pretty much like a familiar, but with a 1,000-foot range. At Fighter 8, go ahead and take an ASI to max out strength. And now is a good time to go back into Barbarian for a 3rd level to get your Primal Path and Primal Knowledge. With that additional proficiency, take whatever you like. I'll take Survival because I like tracking. And for the subclass, you'll want to take Path of the Ancestral Guardian, which creates more Spectral Warriors when you rage. The thematic congruency between these two subclasses should be very clear. The RP opportunities are fantastic. I've wanted to play a character for a while now that has spent years in isolation, someplace like the Underdark, so he created these versions of himself just as much for company as for the protection they provided, and despite these being versions of himself, to him they were completely real people he talked to and cared about. Think Tom Hanks and Wilson or the Two Sides of Gollum, but the other characters can actually see them too, so are they actually real individuals or are they in his head? Who knows? Alright, back to the build. Mechanically, the Ancestral Protectors feature causes the first creature you hit during a turn while raging to suffer disadvantage on attack rolls that aren't against you. The wording there is important. It doesn't say disadvantage on attack rolls against creatures other than you, it says on any attack roll that isn't against you. That means while raging, if you attack through your Echo while far away from the enemy, that creature will have disadvantage to attack anything, even your Echo, which is not a creature. And if that creature wants to move away from your Echo, because it has disadvantage against everything except you, which it actually will have advantage to attack, nope, stuck, Sentinel. Oh, and if they hit a creature other than you, that creature has resistance to the damage dealt by the attack. Unfortunately, your Echo with 1 hit point will just die no matter what, and it isn't a creature, so it doesn't get that resistance anyway, but this still helps out any allies that decided to wander too close to this particular enemy. Now you have a choice. Stick with Barbarian for a level to get another ASI, or leave permanently to get an additional Action Surge at level 20, along with additional uses of Indomitable. If you're not planning on playing in Tier 4, I'd probably just stick with Barbarian here for that extra feat, but this is a 1 through 20 build, so jump back into Fighter to get Indomitable at Fighter 9, which allows you to reroll a failed saving throw. Fighter 10, you get Shadow Martyr, which allows you to teleport your Echo as a reaction to an unoccupied space within 5 feet of a creature targeted for an attack. The attack is then made against the Echo instead of the original creature. You can use this once per short rest. It's a nice little defensive ability that further allows you to protect your allies. At Fighter 11, character level 14, you get a 3rd attack. So now you can actually hit for 8 attacks with Action Surge and Unleash Incarnation, which makes it all but guaranteed that you'll kill an enemy or land a critical to get the extra bonus action attack for a 9th attack that turn. 9 attacks, which is a ton of attacks. Your Echo and Teleport features make moving to new targets if one dies very easy with this build. Level 15, Fighter 12 gets you another ASI or feat, and here you should take Crusher. This will give you a +1 to your Constitution, bringing that to 17, but you also get some nice features. Once per turn, you can move a creature 5 feet in any direction, as long as they're no more than one size larger than you. Be careful how you use this ability though. If your Echo is locking down an enemy, the last thing you want to do is move that enemy out of your melee range so they can move past the Echo without taking any opportunity attacks. The better use of this ability is for those situations where enemies have gotten past your Echo and are attacking you or your allies. Use that 5 feet of movement to free up some space for you or your allies. This works really great for a rogue with the brace maneuver, or the polearm master who gets another attack if enemies come into their range, or the booming blade member of your team that wants the enemy to be forced to move to trigger the booming blade's rider damage. Crusher's final feature gives your entire party advantage on an enemy if you score a critical hit until your next turn, and as we know, you will score plenty of criticals with the number of attacks with advantage you're making. Fighter 13 increases your Indomitable uses to twice per long rest. Fighter 14 gets you another ASI or feat. This character's biggest weakness is going to be mental saving throws, wisdom saves being the most important of the three. Here you should take Resilient Wisdom to help fortify those saves along with your Indomitable uses. You're still going to suck at Intelligence and Charisma saves, and your rerolls with Indomitable will also still suck because the negative modifier is still a negative modifier, but with Wisdom save shored up, that helps mitigate your biggest issue. Fighter 15 gets you the Reclaim Potential feature. Here, a destroyed Echo will net you some temporary hit points, con mod times per day. This isn't a great ability, especially with all the ways to get temporary hit points in the game now, which unfortunately do not stack. Fighter 16 gets you the final ASI or feat, and here you'll definitely want to use an ASI to bump your Constitution and your Wisdom. Con sits at a very respectable 18 right now, which gives you 20 more hit points next level, and an additional use of Unleash Incarnation. Bumping Wisdom to 12 rounds off that stat and helps your Wisdom save and all the great Wisdom-based skills. And finally, at level 20, Fighter 17, your Indomitable uses increases to 3 times per long rest, and more importantly, your Action Surge bumps to twice per short rest, which is awesome. You can forego these capstone features, capstones for this build, if you wanted to take the 4th level in Barbarian for another ASI or feat, but I don't think the value from any feat outweighs the additional Action Surge usage, especially at this level, but the option is there if you want it. So there we have it. The Echo of Potential, the Ancestral Avenger, the Lost Soul, the Echo Knight, and the Ancestral Guardian, whatever you want to call it, you have a very powerful and incredibly fun melee option that is not just strong, but well-rounded with very limited weaknesses. Thanks again for watching, you're all amazing, and I'm thankful for each and every one of you. If you like this content and want to see more, please like, subscribe, share, all the YouTube things, and I'll see you back here next time.